Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Creatively Expressive. Today I'm sharing 7 cottage core style spring DIYs. If you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and leave me a bird emoji in the comments section below. Now let's get started. For project number 1, I'm going to make over this mini wall shelf that I found at Goodwill. The first thing I did was paint the shelf with the color Sandstone by Waverly. After painting it, I realized this wasn't quite the color I wanted. I wanted the color to be close to the color of an unfinished pine wood. So now I'm going to repaint the shelf with the color Light Mocha by Apple Barrel. Once I had it repainted, I took it outside and I covered it in a couple of coats of clear matte finishing spray. Now that that's dry, I'm going to add some antique finishing wax to the shelf. Next, I started wiping off the excess wax with a lint-free cloth. I felt like this took off too much of the wax though. So then I tried brushing the wax on with my paintbrush. Then I took a second clean dry brush and I started brushing over the wax that was on the shelf to spread and thin it out. Using the dry brush to spread out the wax left more of the wax on the shelf. This gave me a bit of a darker color than wiping it with the rag did, and I think it makes the shelf look more like real wood. Now I'm just going to continue to use the 2 brushes to coat the shelf with wax until the entire thing is covered. I'll let it dry and then this project is complete. You can use this as a little shelf if you wanted, but I decided to use mine as a bookend. For project number 2, I will be making over this bird cage that I found at Goodwill. I love bird decor, especially for spring, but this one wasn't quite my style. I am going to remove the ribbon and the flowers from the bird cage, clean it, and then take it outside and spray paint it with some white semi-gloss spray paint. Then I'm going to paint one of these wood ball knobs from Hobby Lobby with the same color. Now I'm going to cut out a 4x4 inch piece of wood from this scrap piece that I have left over from another project. Then I'm going to drill 4 tiny holes into my scrap piece of wood. And I will use some floral wire to attach the piece of wood to the bottom of the bird cage. Next, I will hot glue a piece of floral foam onto the wood. I like the little birdhouse that came with the birdcage, so I'm going to place that into the center of my floral foam. I found this mixed greenery bush at Walmart that I like, and I'm going to use it to fill in that floral foam. I also found this cherry blossom stem at Walmart that I like, and I thought it would look good with the greenery. Now I need to hide the sides of the floral foam, and to do that I'm going to hot glue this moss over the sides of the foam using a low temperature hot glue gun. I will finish adding in my greenery and flowers and then put the bird cage back together. Then I will use some STARBOND super glue to glue that wooden knob that I painted to the top of the bird cage. Now for one little final touch, I am going to add some little hints of gold to the bird cage with some gold rub and buff. I put a little of the gold onto some cardboard and then I dipped a gloved finger into it and lightly rubbed it over some areas on the bird cage. Then, to have a little more control over where the gold was going, I decided to use a small paintbrush dipped in the gold. Once I am happy with the amount of gold that I have added, this project is complete. For project number 3, I am making over this birdcage bookend that I found at Goodwill. The first thing I did was give the bookend a good cleaning. The finial on top of the birdcage had broken off, so I'm going to glue it back on with STARBOND super glue. The bookend looks good just the way it is, but I am really into copper decor pieces right now, so I thought it would be cool to give this a copper look. So I am going to apply this Spanish copper rub and buff to the bookend. I put a bit of the copper on a paper plate and then I dip my gloved finger into it and rub it over the bookend. And you can see how this changes the look of the bookend. The copper adds a bit of warmth and shine to the bookend. Now I'm going to use a paintbrush to add the rub and buff to the areas that I can't reach with my finger. And when I am applying the rub and buff, I make sure to leave some of the original color of the bookend showing through the copper to give it more dimension. Once I have finished adding the copper rub and buff to the bookend, this project is complete. For project number 4, I'm using this round wood sign that I got from Dollar Tree and this small house sign that I found at Goodwill. I just want to use the tree cutout from that round sign. After looking at it a bit, it looked like the round border was glued to the background, but not the actual tree. So I decided to try cutting around the edge of the tree to cut it away from the round border. And I was excited to see that I was right about the tree not being glued down to the background. So I was able to easily lift it off the background. Now I'm going to remove the paper cover from the house. First, I scrape off the top layer with a straight razor. Then I am going to lay a wet cloth over it to loosen up the bottom layer of the paper. Then I will scrape the wet paper off with a straight razor. Now I'm going to use a small sander to sand off the last bit of paper. Next, I'm going to paint the house with the color Celery by Waverly. Then I wanted to mix multiple colors together on the house to give it shadows and highlights and make it look more dimensional. And to do this, I'm using the colors Celery, Moss Green, Ivory, and Coffee Bean. And I'm going to mix those colors together on the house by painting them all at the same time while the colors are still wet. I'm using just one brush and I'll dip it into 2 colors, making sure one color is on one side of the brush and the other color is on the other side of the brush. Then I wipe the brush over the house and it will blend the colors together. And I will just continue to add colors and blend them, working quickly while the paint is still wet. Now I'm going to paint the tree with the color Snow White by Waverly. Then I use an emery board to sand the edges of the tree that I cut away from the border. I'm doing this to shape the leaves so you can't tell they were ever attached to the border. Now I'm going to tape the edges of the house with masking tape. Then I'm going to use the color Coffee Bean to paint the sides of the house. Now I'm going to place the tree on the house and then hold it in place and flip the house over. Then I'll trace around the edges of the house onto the back of the tree so that I know where I need to add my glue. Then I'll add the glue to the tree and stick it to the house. Now that the tree is glued to the house, I start cutting off the rest of the tree. This didn't work out so well for me though, and it didn't give me the cleanest cuts at the edges of the tree. If I were to do this again, I would trace the house onto the back of the tree just like I did, but then I would try cutting the tree along the pencil marks before gluing it to the house. Hopefully this would make it easier for me to get clean cuts. But since I didn't do that, I'm going to have to try to fix what I have. The tree and some of the paint on the house got messed up. Since I painted the house with multiple colors, I felt like I wasn't going to be able to just fix the damaged areas without it being noticeable. So now I decided to just paint the whole house in the color moss green. Then I need to go back over the sides of the house with the color coffee bean. Next, I'll repaint the tree with the color Snow White. I got a little bit of white paint on the house. I could have just painted over it with moss green, but I thought it might add a little bit of whimsy to it by adding little white lines here and there around the edges of the tree on the house. And I think that looks pretty cute. And now this project is complete. For project number 5, I am making over this bird that I found at Goodwill. I like the shape of the bird, but I don't like the color. First, I am going to paint the bird with the color coffee bean. I'm going to place the bird on this funnel from Dollar Tree so that it is up off the table. Then I'm going to cover the entire bird in a thick coat of Mod Podge. Now I'm going to let it sit for about 10 to 15 minutes to let the Mod Podge dry a little bit, but not completely. While the Mod Podge was setting up, I mixed the colors Snow White and Cashew together. And now I'm going to add one thick coat of paint to the entire bird. Then I'm going to dry the paint with my heat gun. If you don't have a heat gun, you can also use a hair dryer. Make sure to keep the heat gun moving around and don't stay in one spot for too long because this will cause the paint to bubble. As the paint dries, it will begin to crack, exposing the darker base color and giving the bird an aged look. Then for the final step, I am going to coat the bird with this triple thick crystal clear glaze. And now this project is complete. For project number 6, I'm using these decorative balls that I found at Goodwill. I see these all the time at Goodwill in the bags that they have filled with multiple items that are hanging on the wall. These aren't very cottage style, but I felt like they could be. First, I painted the balls with the color Ivory by Waverly. This took multiple coats to cover up that red. Now I'm using the color Coffee Bean, and I just add a tiny bit of paint to a foam brush, and then I tap some of the paint off of the brush. Then I'm going to rub the almost dry foam brush over the raised ornate details on the balls. You can see how adding just a bit of brown to the ball really makes those details pop. Then I'll cover these balls in a matte clear coat to protect the paint, and these are complete. And I got these little greenery balls that I have displayed with these from Amazon, and I'll have a link to those in the description box of this video. For project number 7, I'm going to make a topiary using this little pot that I found at Goodwill, a wooden dowel, a 3.8-inch styrofoam ball, and a 2.3-inch styrofoam ball. I'm going to push a wooden dowel all the way through the larger green ball. Then I'm going to push the dowel about halfway through the smaller ball. Then I'm going to fill the pot with styrofoam. Next, I'm going to stain the wooden dowel using antique finishing wax. I'll brush the wax on the dowel with a paintbrush and then wipe off the excess with a baby wipe. Now I'm going to cover the balls with some Boxwood greenery picks that I got from Walmart. The Boxwood leaves are attached to the pick in little bunches of 8 leaves or 4 sections of 2. I'm going to cut them apart so that I have 4 sets of 2 leaves. To attach the leaves to the ball, I'm going to use a wooden skewer to poke a hole into the styrofoam. Then I add hot glue to the hole, and then I push one of the sets of leaves into the hole. And I'll continue poking holes and gluing in leaves until the entire ball is covered. And this is going to take a while, so just put on a movie or something to watch while you do this. I started adding the leaves to the white ball, and then I decided that the white was probably going to show through those leaves too much. So to fix this, I decided to paint the white ball with the color moss green. And I'll just set it aside to dry before I finish adding the leaves. Now that both balls are covered in the boxwood leaves, I'm going to glue them onto that stained wooden dowel. I'm going to figure out where I want the bigger ball to be on the dowel, and then I'm going to mark that spot with a pencil. Then I'm going to add hot glue to the dowel along the pencil mark that I made. I will try to push the leaves on the top of the ball out of my way, and then slide the ball up to the spot on the dowel where I added the glue. Then I will turn the ball upside down and add more glue to the bottom of the ball around the edge of the dowel. Next, I will glue the styrofoam that I cut earlier into the pot. And then I'll glue the dowel into the pot. Now for the last step, I will glue some moss over the styrofoam in the pot. And now this project is complete. Alright guys, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope it was helpful to you. If you liked today's video, some easy and completely free ways to help support my channel and help it grow are to subscribe if you haven't already, give me a thumbs up, leave me a quick comment or even just an emoji, and share this video with anyone that you think might enjoy it. I truly appreciate your support and I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!